Finding exact values with half-angle identities. We have sine of 5 pi over 12. So first off, they're telling me 5 pi over 12 is a half angle. If we want to know what the actual full angle would be, if you take 5 pi over 12 and I multiply it by 2, it now becomes 10 pi over 12, which is going to reduce to be 5 pi over 6. So if we look at sine of 5 pi over 6 over 2, 5 pi over 6 is u. So this 5 pi over 6, that is our u in the half angle identity that we're going to use. So sine of 5 pi over 6 over 2 is the same thing as the positive or negative square root of 1 minus cosine u, and u being 5 pi over 6 all over 2. Now the positive or the negative, you have to think about what quadrant does my original angle start in. And 5 pi over 12 is in quadrant 1. Which means that this is only going to be the positive of the square root. So I'm going to have the positive of the square root, which I'm not going to continue writing, but you'll see for now it's just the positive. So we have 1 minus cosine of 5 pi over 6 all over 2. Well, we have to think about what is the cosine of 5 pi over 6. I have a pi over 6 angle, and at my pi over 6 angles, I have the x coordinate of square root of 3 over 2, y coordinate of 1/2. 5 pi over 6 is in quadrant 2, which means I went negative x and positive y. So I get negative square root of 3 over 2, positive 1/2. Well, cosine is our x value, so I'm going to have a negative square root of 3 over 2 in place of my cosine 5 pi over 6. Okay, this is now going to, I need to simplify this down a little bit. So I have 1 plus, because a negative times the negative, so I get 1 plus the square root of 3 all over 2 over 2. Well, I've got a fraction within a fraction here. If we look to first get common denominators in the numerator, this would look like 1 over 1. So I'd have to multiply the top and the bottom both by 2. So now I have the square root of 2 plus the square root of 3 all over 2, all over 2. That was by adding the two fractions in the numerator. Well, we still have a fraction within a fraction, and we know that means that you flip and multiply, or I multiply by the reciprocal. So if we multiply both by 1/2, what's going to happen is I'm going to get the square root of 2 plus the square root of 3 times 1, which is just 2 plus the square root of 3, all over 2 times 2, which is 4. In the denominator, 2 times 1/2, they both reduce to be 1. So I'm not going to write that. However, what I am going to write is I'm going to break this into 2 radicals, because if you remember from our rules with radicals, I have to rationalize the denominator if I have a radical there. So this is going to be 2 plus the square root of 3 all over square root of 4. And square root of 4 is the same thing as 2. So we're going to rewrite this as the square root of 2 plus the square root of 3 all over 2. This is as far as this is going to simplify. Now, if you wanted to check your answer, the way you can check your answer is to type in the square root of 2 plus the square root of 3 all over the quantity 2 and get your answer, and then type in sine of 5 pi over 12 in radian mode, and you could see that they both come out to be the same thing.